Hi, folks. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about building traditions. In the background, you're going to hear a little bit of bird sounds. It's just a soothing tool that I like to use when giving presentations or when meditating. So, building traditions. You're key to continuously engaging sisters in your chapter. So, what is a tradition? Tradition is defined as the transmission of customs or beliefs from generation to generation, or the fact of being passed on in this way. So there are four main categories of traditions within OFA. Number one is chapter specific. Number two is national specific. Number three is family specific or lineage, depending on what your chapter calls it. And then number four is alumni, specific and focus. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into all of these to just describe what is within each of these categories, how you can build this out a little bit more, and it'll help improve your overall morale and sisterhood within your chapter. So how are traditions important to your chapter? If they're done correctly, traditions actually have the opportunity to one, cultivate spaces of connections for members of all types, regardless of their identity. Number two, it allows for excitement to be formed around the chapters and the national organization as a whole, no matter what stage you're in. When I say stage, I mean whether you're a potential new member or a prospect, whether you are a new member, whether you're an active, whether you're LOA, or whether you're an alumni. All of these different stages, if you do have really great traditions, it allows you to be excited at every stage. Number three, it's fun. Especially the cheers and chants. Those are my personal favorite. Number four, it's one way to show the evolution of your chapter and the national organization towards being more culturally competent with its engagement. And then five is an engagement tool for your members, no matter what stage of membership they're in. So let's dive into being national specific. If you're able to, as you're watching this presentation, try to think of one tradition that Nationals has. And I'll give you a moment. Awesome. Now, in this next slide, I'm going to give you a few. So, there are a lot to name. So, outside of the ceremonies and songs, which is probably the first one you thought of, um, and we'll also discuss those, but diving more deeply, Nationals also has the following: the Chevron. Right now, it's an e-newsletter, and we also launched the Golden Chevron this year at convention. But the Chevron has been going on since 1967. If you were at convention, you were actually able to see the little board in one of our silent rooms that showed little glimpses of all of the chevrons. It was really cool and exciting to see that history. The next one is Big and Littles, as everyone knows. You go through this process whenever you join and you're able to get a big, and then once you've had your time, you're able to get a little. Or if you're interacting with some of our prospect chapters, you're able to be a big to one of them. Big Day. This is a really great celebration of a new member's journey coming to a start and then being able to go through this process. Families and lineages, this ties in with bigs and littles. However you form that relationship and the traditions you form around it is super important. Senior send-offs. This looks different for every chapter, whether you have a really emotional ceremony where you reminisce on your time, or if you do something fun and exciting. It can also include having apparel, such as cords or stoles for your graduation. For what you know, that's utilizing our symbol. So this symbols and colors. So that's just knowing which colors associated with our different pillars. And then stating our lovely purpose and goals. It's usually done at every meeting, which you are probably very much so aware of. And then lastly, apparel and regalia. So wearing our lovely OFIA shirts, sweatshirts, having flags, card tags, anything in between. All of that is part of the traditional element that makes people excited to be a part of our organization. And then, fun fact, if you ever do want to look up the old chevrons, like how I mentioned they were at convention, we actually have an archive. Did you know? If you didn't, there's two ways you can look at it. One is this first link where you could just see the printed Chevron archive, and then the second one is the e-newsletter archive. So you can really see all of our history. It would also be really cool if you're able to turn into a service project. Now, let's look at ceremonies. So outside of the big ones listed, there are also some for special occasions, such as pregnancies, engagement, and more. At convention, we actually had a special announcement and we were able to do something then. Now, I'm just going to go through a lot of these, the bigger ones that you might be more so aware of. So, first is new member activation. It signals the end of the new member process and the beginning of life as an active sister. Sisters receive their active pins, which they wear to meetings and other events, depending on your chapter. It can be attended by all active and alumni members of the chapter, and then active sisters wear black while new members wear white. This has a lot of different names. Some chapters call it activation, some call it rose night, and I've heard a bunch of other names too. Next is the officer installation ceremony. This marks the transition of officers after each term, and it can be attended by active and alumni members, and it's also held at convention in years of officer transitions. Senior ceremony. So this is a private ceremony celebrating the end of active life in OPA and the beginning of alum. It can be attended by graduating sisters and any alumni of the sorority. New chapter induction. This marks the end of the colonization period and introduces the colony as a new chapter in the sorority. This can be attended by any active or alumni member of the sorority. This semester, we're actually going to have 3. We're so excited to welcome in the new chapters, those being University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Auburn, and UNC Chapel Hill. Alumni Society induction. This is a ceremony honoring sisters for their years as lifetime members of OPA. It can either be performed at conventions and during digging for diamonds, and it can be attended by all active and alumni members of the sorority. There are 3 stages, if you will, of being inducted in the society. The first is Topaz, which is 10 years. The second is Sapphire, which is 25 years. And then the last one is Diamond, which is 40 years. Next, let's look at songs. And on here I say, can you say la la la? So, did you know that Omega Phi Alpha has more than 10 songs? Here are a few of them. The national song, Pass It On, a tribute to O-Phi-A, For a While, We've Only Just Begun, the OPA sorority song, Hey Look Us Over, We're Called O-Phi-A, This Time, Consider Yourself, O-Phi-A's Why, Top of the World, and Don't Let This Feeling In. So some of these are actually some that chapters specifically created, and all of the lyrics and instrumentals can be found on OPA portal. If you ever need help finding these, just reach out to either myself with my email, chapterhealth@omegaphialpha.org, or Alyssa, who is the managing director at omegaphialpha.org. Chapter specific. So these are traditions that are specific to a chapter. I would love you to think about what are some traditions that your chapter has. Think about it for just a second. Awesome. Here are some examples. So some events that you can utilize. So on the first day of the month, you wear your letters on campus. Every year you host an annual event, whether that looks like Galentine's Day, having a family day where you invite like your actually blood family, or it's your OPA family, like your lineages. You can do annual service projects, formal is a really big one, having a brunch, potlucks, etc. Once a month, you can have a wellness chapter where you really take care of the members of the sorority. Once a month, you can wear pajamas to chapter and have it be really laid back and fun. For every new member class, you can have a bring your kids to work day where they get to run active chapter. Every semester, you can have a recap video of your semester. It's really emotional and it's really exciting to just see how much you were able to do in a semester. And then lastly, another suggestion is having an annual family competition. Some things that you can do is having chapter specific cheers and chants. You can choose to share these with all of the chapters, or you can make it specific to you. Next is having a sisterhood retreat specific traditions, whether it's an activity, the way you do your ceremony, such as reveal. We have a special way of doing that. That's a tradition, and it's something that people usually look forward to. Lastly, is having new member specific traditions, whether it's giving an active chapter gift or having a performance, whatever it is, if it's fun and exciting, it becomes a tradition that people look forward to. Now, family specific. So these are traditions that are specific to your families that you have within your chapter. This will look extremely different for each chapter and for each family, but you can draw inspiration from any chapter that you're able to speak with or any other big and little situation that you're able to get more insight on. So what does this look like? So traditions can be as simple as having family names that are fun and exciting, going past the usage of Greek names and doing something creative, like turtles, which is my family, the Disney family, the Lover family, etc. They can also take place within the family or within a specific lineage. It can also look like having a special way of doing reveal, having family Olympic games, having family shirts, maybe you have a family recipe, or you have a family item that is passed down to each new little. And then these are actually the easiest to start because it's within your family. It's less people to kind of juggle to get it started. So you're able to just do it and take charge. Next, we're going to look at alumni specific / focused events and traditions. So there are actually some alumni organizations for OPA, and they have their own process with traditions. Outside of that, your collegiate chapter can also choose to engage with alumni to create traditional components and elements. Here is the team. So, alumni organizations. There are a few of these where alum are able to still engage with each other through having their own meetings, doing their own service projects, and sisterhood events. They have their own sets of traditions that you can connect with them on. Now, alumni engagement is where you, as an active chapter, can have an annual event or way to engage with alumni, and it's super important. A lot of alumni, they want to donate, they want to engage, and support their collegiate chapter. More importantly, they want to remember the good old days. You can tap into that and find ways to use that for your chapter. So what does it look like to engage alum? So you can do the following, and these are just suggestions. You can host an alumni tea, which is why I said here's a tea. You can host an alumni brunch. You can host a fundraiser for your chapter where your target audience is alum. You can send out a monthly, quarterly, or semester newsletter to give them updates on what's happening. And you can definitely make sure to celebrate your Founders Day, especially the big ones, such as your first Founders Day, your 5th, your 10th, your 20th, your 25th, 30th, 40th, 50th, etc. You can also do a service project. So you can do one with them or even do one for them. Alumni are still members since this is a lifelong commitment. So here are some ideas that I had for service projects that you can totally utilize, or you can think outside the box and think of something even better. So you can do an OPA daycare where you give free childcare to alums in your area. You can raise funds or materials for teachers that are alum from your chapter. You can raise funds or materials for nurse alums. And then you can also partner with nationals to find your lost sisters. And then lost sisters are alum who we don't have any contact with. So we don't have any of their contact information. We want to engage with them and make sure that they feel welcome into this forever sisterhood. But sometimes you graduate and you lose contacts. And it's difficult to get back in if you don't have that one person that reaches out to you. And so this is a really good way to reach out to that sister and make sure that they are still getting the love they deserve. So what if your chapter doesn't have any traditions? Or if you just have a few? Start some yourself. There is no limit to how many traditions that you can have. And it's really critical to have some so sisters have something to be excited about. What if your chapter's traditions are outdated? You can get rid of them, or you can update them. As history has taught us, just because something is tradition doesn't mean it is serving every member equitably and safely. Some traditions are more than okay to remove if it doesn't represent our organization and the advancements that we have made. So, something important to remember is a tradition is another way of connection. Invest in them so your sisters feel close and connected to your chapter. They will show up for you when it's time for elections, service, and bringing in new sisters. Now, go out and maintain or cultivate traditions for your chapter. If you need anything or need suggestions or tips and tricks on how to improve the traditions in your chapter, please don't hesitate to reach out. Excited to see what you all come up with.